So in this film we're going to have a look at the data that the Lenz system puts out to the rails. This has been prompted by an email I received talking about an automated layout where he's got a very complex timetable with a lot of data being handled. To the point, I think, where he's actually saturating the amount of data that can be transferred. Now, annoyingly, I've tried to answer his question, but his email has blocked me. So, hence the film, and hopefully this will get back to him. I do answer questions as much as I can. Right, so the Lenz systems. He's got an old set 100, so the LZV 100 and LH 100. But it applies to the new system as well, so I may as well talk about both. The old system had an operating stack of up to 128 locos, I think. And that internal stack is broadcasting information to every loco that you've input into the system. So it's reminding the loco what direction it's going, what functions are turned on, what speed it's going at. So that is constantly broadcast out to the rails, so that if you get a power interruption or if, just dodgy pickup, functions will resume. Bit of a bad example, let's let that time out. There we go. It's got a power pack in this loco, but when I put it back on the track, the functions come back on again. So that's kind of important for running as well, because a loco that's been interrupted and with no repeat of instruction will default back to stop. So the system is continuously broadcasting the speed it wants to be running at. That's fine. So the new system, the set 101, the LH 101 and LZV 200 has an internal stack of 250 locos. So it's processing data for all of those, well, once you've input them. If you've only put 3 locos in, it's only going to process information for 3 locos. But over time, every time you put a new address in, it will remember the last speed, what functions were turned on, and direction of travel. And that will be broadcast out to the track. The situation the gentleman has is that he's got a computer interface and a computer program. So that computer is sending instructions at a far greater rate than any sort of manual handset could possibly do. And he's now got to a point where there's so many timetable instructions going off at once that it's overloading. There's just not enough bandwidth for all of that data to go out to the track. It's like a tap turned on and it's broadcasting constantly speed, direction, addresses, and the first 8 functions of every loco. So it's quite handy, we can see that if I put the sound on. Okay, we'll start it running and we'll simulate interrupting the power. So I will, oops, it's running on the power pack, it's now stopped. Say it was on a dirty bit of track and it resumed. So the only way it can resume is if the system is sending out those instructions continuously. Because the decoder will default back to a point where it says, well, there's nothing going on. So I'll pop the sound off there. Right. So on the system, to keep the amount of data down, it's only refreshing the first 8 functions, 9 functions, F0 through to function 8. So let's demonstrate that by turning on function 14, which is the control panel. Control panel lights there. So you can see the headlights are on, control panel lights are on, Let's interrupt the power. Lights are out. Plug it back on the track. The headlights are resumed, sorry. But function 14 has not repeated. So the control panel lights, even though my handset's saying they should be on, they have not come back on. So if I just cycle this on and off again, they'll come on again. And that's because the system is only repeating the first 9 functions. We can increase that. So on the new handset we do this by pressing and holding F. It says functions configure, and you've got various different options here, and we want to go to refresh. So click into that and it's refreshing for function 0 to 8. You could do 0 to 12, 0 to 20, 0 to 28 and 0 to 4 as an option. So if you want to reduce your data load, you can put it down to a refresh of 0 to 4. But if you want functions like my function 14 to resume, let's put it up to there. Right. So now I've got function 14 on, I've got you can see the control panel lights are on. Let's power it down, plonk it back on. There it goes, it got the repeat. So it's just a nice little way of understanding what's going on with the system. I say in this case it's an automated layout, and this question, the last time it was asked was about 10 years ago. So it's not one that comes up very regularly. So it's not going to affect 99.9999% of customers. But it's there, it's what's going on. Right, so because the question was asked about the old system, I've got the old handset here, the LH100. To change the refresh rates on here, what we do is we go into the menu with F, you scroll around until it says set F, press enter, and it's option 3. And here we have the refresh 0 to 8, 0 to 12, 20, 28 or 0 to 4. And in his case I would recommend putting it down to 0 to 4 to reduce the refresh rate, the amount of data that's been sent out from the system. So once you're happy and you've selected what you want, just press enter. So yeah, it's a bit of a novel thing. I'm sort of clarifying what data is going out to your layout. Your handsets have an internal stack, but the stack you're concerned about is the main system stack. And let's say 128 I think in the old system and 250 in the new system. And it will remember everything that has been input. If you want to get rid of it all, the easiest thing is to do a system reset. So this is how you do a system reset. You'll notice I've left the sound loco running. I want to show something with that. I've turned the unit round so you can see the red light. On the LZV200 it's the bottom red light. The process is the same to reset them in each case. So I will select loco 0 and press button 4 20 times. You hear the sound's gone out. So it's nice actually, I find that the easiest way of finding out. The little LED should have just blipped out briefly, I may have missed that. When you do that, unplug the power, let it settle for a minute so it's basically draining all the capacitors in here. And when you plug it back in, all the handsets will show what's gone on. So if I clear it and go back to address 3, you'll see that all the functions I had selected have disappeared. So that's cleared down the entire stack in the unit. And as soon as you start entering things, it will start rebuilding the stack. and it will start then transferring the data that you've entered. Remember that every time you put a new address in, it's remembering direction, speed and functions. So all that data goes out to your rails at all times. So occasionally resetting your system to clear down the stack will reduce the data transfer that's going on. So the key things to look out for if you're doing fully automatic running with lots of trains and lots of changes in speed and functions is to reduce the data load. So you can reduce the data load by switching from 128 speed step running down to 28 speed step running, because you're reducing the data being sent. You can also reduce the refresh rate of functions. That will also reduce the data. And I've got a feeling that actually going down to 2-digit addresses will also reduce the data. It's just a hunch that there's more data being sent for 4-digit addresses. So, and the other thing is just to simplify. Maybe you're trying to do too many things at once. On the big German automated layouts, they have lots of separate systems and lots of separate lines. So they're not loading up one system with a myriad of instructions. They've actually got it split over a lot of systems.